What's up YouTube? Terry from True Champion Gaming coming at you with another video from our budget series. And this one is probably a controversial topic at your locals. So we are going to be breaking down everybody's favorite villain, and that is a budget erupting Rhapsody list. This list is based off of the list that I played early in FTC that I was able to top 4 regionals with, as well as win 2 store championships with. Really strong control deck, and I'm going to break it down. I might as well just jump into it. It is a level 3 Merlin Erupting Rhapsody list with a Rye start, so we are full on to the mage interaction. It's definitely a control deck, so we'll get into the list, but the whole reason I want to explain why we go to level 3 Merlin is we don't play any of the Dustlight Communion, ways to deal with a fracturized lantern interaction, which if you're unfamiliar with that interaction, definitely look it up. When you fracturize a nullifying lantern, it turns into a fractal. That ability is still happening all the time. So it turns all graveyards into Norm, which completely shuts off Erupting Rhapsody. So this list, when you're in those scenarios, you can level up to level 3 Merlin, draw a bunch of cards, control the board state, and finish off your opponents in good old Merlin fashion, double fireball. So that being said, I'm going to jump right into the rest of the material deck. These are kind of the 2 flex spots of the list. Viridian Protective Trinket, I think, is just so important whenever you're playing any kind of combo kill deck. On those turns where if your opponent can interact with you, which right now Water is the only deck that really has negates that are used regularly, Viridian Protective Trinket can protect you from those. So really solid choice. Honestly, it's not much of a flex pick, if I'm being honest. It's something that kind of has to go into the main deck. You can put it into the side if you don't play against any water. Not a big deal, but really strong. And then Terraforming is just another way to slow down our aggressive opponents, stay alive long enough to take control of the game and eventually kill our opponents. Next up, we have the dynamic duo. Channeling Stone needs no introduction. It's a 1 cost that makes your next card that you activate this turn cost 2 less. Lets us combo a little bit harder. Sometimes it lets us get to 3 kill spells in 1 turn to do a lot of damage. So really strong card in the right situation, which is the reason why it always makes it into these lists. There are games that you will, if you play this deck a lot, you will find yourself in situations where you're like, man, I just don't have enough cards. There's no way I can do it. And then you realize, wait, I have 1 floating memory. If I bring out Channeling Stone, I have enough for combo, and boom, I can get there. So really strong card. And then for Erupting players, the new hotness, Discordia Harp of Malice, which you play this card, for those of you who aren't familiar how this interaction works. So if we bring out Discordia onto the field, we play an Ember Song, which is the first half of our combo, which I'll talk about in a second. You will put a music counter on Discordia as soon as that card is activated. And then when you play the Erupting Rhapsody, you will do that as well. It'll add a music counter here. And then with that on the stack, you can tap this and pop it to gain 2 levels. Get rid of as many fire cards as you want, and the damage equal to level with your Erupting Rhapsody combo. So it's basically, honestly, there's a banned card I'm not going to mention that it kind of does the same thing in this deck. So Discordia really strong to get a little bit of extra reach when you need it, specifically on double combo kills turns. And then for us, because we are budget, we're not playing GCR, we're not playing any Divine Relics. We are playing the draw package of Baubles, and because we have a Rise start, Jewel of Enlightenment basically works as a GCR in this deck because we don't do anything with our Enlightenment counters. So we'll always get to those 2, and then Jewel of Enlightenment will always be the 3rd one that we get to draw with. So pretty decent little draw package without having to spend a ton of money on GCR. Now, I'm gonna jump right into the deck. A lot of these cards are gonna be pretty straightforward, but still, I'm gonna break it down. We are gonna start with Old Reliable, the whole namesake of the deck, and the benefit to playing Mage. So this is a Erupting Rhapsody deck, like I told you. And how this card works is if you've acted a Melody card this turn, choose any amount of units and deal level damage split among them after when we cast the spell. So we activate it, we banish any number of Fire Element cards, it makes our level go up, and then if we had played a Melody, boom, we do a bunch of damage, right? And it's crazy because it's not a spell. So it gets around Spell Shroud. It is a skill. So really cool interaction there. But we also, because we are a mage, have access to Fireball. And Fireball kind of works like another Erupting Rhapsody. So in this deck, our kill combo can be Ember Song, Erupting. It can be Ember Song, Erupting, Fireball, or it can be Erupting Fireball, Fireball. So we have a lot of ways to get our kill combos when we're looking for those 1 starter, the start to your combo, and then 2 finishing spells to do the damage that you need to kill your opponent. So pretty straightforward. That's how it works. That is how we push through the damage that we need to win the game. Now, how do we get the cards to cast those kind of spells? Well, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Increasing Danger. We've got Cremation Ritual, and we've got Creative Shock. And honestly, I've got Tempered Steels here. Tempered Steels are just literally a fire element floating memory, and that is what they are here for. We don't even play a weapon that we can utilize this on. So we are putting these into the yard with Creative Shocks or Hasty Messengers or Bust. That's basically all we've got. But our Creative Shock, obviously one of the strongest cards in the game. Really nice to set up floating memory to level up with, but also just to dump 2 fire cards into the yard while replacing itself. Everything in this deck we want to net even or even +1 if we can. When we're doing that, obviously, if we're against a very ally-heavy deck, we play a lot of removal, which I'll get into. But we always want to try to keep our hands healthy and keep drawing cards so that we can combo kill our opponents. And sometimes you get to just do crazy, crazy turns where you utilize multiple of these in turn 1 and 2 and end up with 11, 12 cards in hand, and you're able to just kill your opponent very quickly. And that's one of the benefits to playing Erupting Rhapsody is you have very explosive turns. So some more of the fire spells and kind of the removal suite. The deck is a little bit unique because of these. So we play 3 Ignite the Souls, 3 Sparklight, we play 3 Focus Flames, and 3 Purge in Flames. So this is our removal suite against ally decks. The cool thing about Ignite the Soul and Sparklight is it's also burn. So a lot of times we can use these to soften up our opponent. If we know, hey, we're going to be able to go for our kill in 2 turns or, what have you, we've kind of got it set up in our hand, we see it, we don't feel that threatened, we can use these spells to just poke a little bit more damage into our opponents, make our kill turn happen a little quicker. So make sure you're always doing that kill math and bringing into your thought process that, man, if I Sparklight them here and I Ignite the Soul them, is that enough damage to kill them next turn or what have you? But other than that, with class bonus, this is a 3 damage spell. So as soon as we hit Rye, we can kill any ally that has 3 or go for face for 3, and it is unpreventable. So if you're playing against a Rye and you go to Erupting Rhapsody them, they use a Spell Shield Arcane, you can Sparklight that Spell Shield Arcane, let it resolve first, obviously, and then hold priority, Sparklight them. This can't be prevented, but it will pop their Spell Shield. So super cool interaction there. And we also have Ignite the Soul, which is really nice. If they do try, you don't have the Sparklight, you can hit them for 1 and then boom, their Spell Shield pops. So this is also floating memory, helps us level up when we need it because we can go to level 3. And sometimes you will decide to go to level 3 because you need the life. It really just comes with practice with the deck, but you'll definitely get a feel for it. Focus Flames, one of the best. It costs 1 when we have class bonus to just do 4 damage to an ally. So deals with pesky allies, even most allies, if they have an Attune the Winds buff counter on them, this can still deal with them. So that's really, really strong. And then lastly, and kind of a new addition and really interesting choice, is 3 of Purge in Flames. And we actually sideboard another one too to have the full sweep, but against ally decks that are trying to go wide against you, you have a lot of spot removal, but they can just go wide sometimes and you just don't have enough to deal with it while keeping your hand healthy enough to kill them. Purge in Flames, because we draw so many cards, it's not crazy for us to be able to Purge in Flames on turn 2 as a level 1 Rye, or easily on turn 3, have enough cards with the bonus to play this card, kill their board, and get ahead on board. So, and that's what we're trying to do, right, is stay healthy until we can defeat our opponents with an Erupting Rhapsody combo. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the allies, and these go right along with Cremation Ritual, honestly, the first 3. So we've got 4 Library Witch, 4 Stalwart Shieldmate, 4 Clumsy Apprentice, and 4 Hasty Messengers. And Hasty Messenger is one of the strongest cards in your deck. Being able to play Hasty, swing without them being able to interact, which instantly is going to let us put a fire card in the yard, and then draw another card, dig into our deck deeper to find those combo pieces, but also just continuously add fire cards to our yard, or Floating Memory if we need to level up. Really, really powerful. Stalwart Shieldmate, it is Floating Memory, but it's also an O2 taunt to help protect us. Usually, you know, if our opponent has to swing into it, saves us one swing. That could be as much as another turn, you know, depending on what your opponent has. We also play 4 Library Witch. So with this suite here, we actually have a pretty decent way to defend against decks like Diana that do these really big single attacks. Having access to Interceptors and Taunters right out the gates. These are also your prime suspects to hit with a Cremation Ritual, draw a couple cards. With Library Witch, she replaces herself and then you draw. So it really, really feels good to Cremation Ritual a Library Witch and draw 3 cards. And then lastly, Clumsy Apprentice. She replaces herself. She is probably the scariest card in the deck when you play her. I have played versions with none of her, 2 of her, 3 of her, but honestly, every time I play Erupting, I tend to just go back to 4 because she is so strong. Just being able to replace herself and then get Cremation Ritual to really put you ahead on cards is so powerful, and everything we want in this deck. You don't really care. You might get a couple, like 1 damage in with her, sometimes 2 if they don't want to kill her and put fire in your yard, but she's really there to just replace herself, to keep that net even, and then hopefully Cremation Ritual her away. So adds fire to the yard and keeps our hand healthy. And we already talked about Hasty Messenger, just the absolute all-star of this deck. And lastly, I have 4 last cards in the main deck, and that is a full playset of Spurn to Ash. So your opponent inevitably is going to be playing Nullifying Lantern. We need to be able to deal with it. So we play a full suite for Spurn to Ash in the main. This can deal with, if they play Quicksilver Grail, you can play this to destroy their Quicksilver Grail. They will pop it in response, bring out their Lantern, and then you're gonna have to kill that with a Spurn to Ash as well. So it's definitely important to play a full playset, at least 4. It doesn't have to be 4 Spurn to Ash. It could be 2 Verucan Acolyte, 2 Spurn to Ash, 1 Meltdown, 3 Verucan Acolyte, whatever it is. But I think 4 is kind of the minimum we can play in the main. I've seen decks play as many as 8 in the main in Erupting decks, but 4 seems pretty healthy in the main. Feels pretty strong, and we actually side 2 more, which I will jump into right now. But before I do, just a couple of things I'd like to throw out there. We have, during the week on our Discord, we do tournaments every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have pods that pop off if they get 8 players. You play for store credit at our shop, and you're able to buy boxes a ton, or just utilize that to play in another event. Super cool. They are unranked currently. We also have partnerships with Dragon Shield. If you're interested in ordering some Dragon Shields, go to their website and use code TRUE5 at checkout for a special discount. And of course, in the links below, you will always find our TCG player affiliate link. If you're gonna buy cards, if you use our link, it gives us a little bit kickback and helps us. You guys have been so helpful over the past year and growing this channel. And honestly, none of this would be possible without you. So thank you. And let's jump into the sideboard. So we're just gonna lay them all out. We've got a Safeguard Amulet, an Azure Protective Trinket, a Bauble of Abundance, the 4th Purge in Flames, then we have 2 Verucan Acolyte, and this is an interesting one that I'm excited to talk about, and that's 2 Sudden Steel. So we play 3 Baubles. So we have, depending on the deck we're playing against, at least 2 dead cards in our deck. So I wanted to make sure that we had 2 cards that could come in either of those matchups. Safeguard Amulet, you never know. It can come up in almost every matchup other than Wind Allies, I think. Most Wind Ally stuff this doesn't really come up in, but most decks have some way that they might be able to push a little damage. Maybe that's from Scepter. Maybe that's, you know, Rye or Merlin that's using Fireballs or Arcane Blasts, and this card just helps you live a little longer. Also really good against the Boogeyman, Luxem Xander. So a way to stay alive a little bit longer if you need to. And then Bauble of Abundance is just another draw. We don't care that much about our opponents drawing cards because we draw so many cards and we just kill them. So really solid choice, and also a very budget-friendly choice as well. And then Azure Protective Trinket is in here for the Erupting Mirrors. If you play against another graveyard deck, maybe that's Aggro Lorraine, maybe that's another Erupting list, this is a really solid choice to bring in, and you're able to get rid of 3 of their fire and hopefully outrace them. So really strong. Purge in Flames, the 4th one to bring in against Swarm decks, really strong. We have 2 Verucan Acolytes. If we're playing against decks that have access to Grail, or we see Grail, or just more Regalia that you think would be helpful to get rid of, Verucan Acolyte, really solid choice. and it brings our Regalia Hate in the main up to 6 after sideboard. So really strong, not a terrible card to bring in almost every matchup. So good choice here. And now the most fun choice, which I'm gonna move these guys out of the way while I talk about it, is definitely Sudden Steal. So this was a tech card that I played in Florida. Really, really cool. When you're playing against water decks specifically, and you know there's a good chance that you might get nullified, fracturized, Lantern Fracturized. This is a card that comes in, we can play it. We're gonna go to Merlin 3. And so utilizing her bonus of 2, we get to use this, and it's most of the time it's free in that part of the game, and we can use it to swing for 7, which is a big chunk of damage. So it's really, really solid. Another choice is you could play like Devastating Blow if you wanted to. I just really think in Erupting, we always want to be casting things for the least amount of resources. So this card does really well because it ends up being free most of the time. Sometimes we just need to be able to push a little bit of extra damage and then be able to finish them off with our fireballs as level 3 Merlin. And Sudden Steal is a great way to do that. It's also a really solid card that you can bring in against slower decks, because we have a lot of removal that kind of is dead. So it's easy to bring in a couple Sudden Steals, even if we don't go to level 3 Merlin. Sometimes the turn before you kill, you might just pay 6 and swing at them for 5 with a Rye, you know? So it does happen. It is another kind of mini fireball, another mini kill spell, but it does get the job done when you need it. So there you guys have it. That is a budget Erupting Rhapsody. We will put the pricing in this as well as probably the list below, so you guys can check it out, put it together, play it at your locals or with your friends, and let us know what you think. We're gonna continue doing budget-friendly videos like this, and hopefully, you know, we'll find something that really fits your guys' fancy, makes you really happy to play, and honestly, that's all we could ever ask for. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.